Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. Gary Gensler says nothing's stopping him. You won't believe what he says here. We got India's the G20 president this year, and they're going to talk about upcoming events, and it's crypto global regulations. You're going to want every bit of it. And we got Rosie Rios, the 43rd U.S. Treasurer, Ripple board member, talking about USD Tether, something we talk about here all the time. And she's also going to talk about who should be dealing with crypto in the United States. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. $1.22 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. Good morning, everybody. The market is off by 0.6%. Bitcoin, 27,800 plus. We see Ethereum, 1849 and change. Tether market cap is 80.1 billion. You are going to want to hear what Rosie Rios says about USD Tether, and you're going to today, no doubt about it. Now, let's take a look at this. XRP is at 50 cents right now. We're going to have some TA for you to look at from Eggrag Crypto before we get out of here. You're going to want to see that as well. Let's get started. It's ranging between 50 and 53 cents. We'll keep an eye on that. Ladies and gentlemen, 28 days left until the XRP Las Vegas event. It is going to be the first ever XRP conference in Las Vegas. And I cannot express to you how incredible this event is going to be. If you have not secured your ticket, you better get it. And let me just be very clear. I want to go over this very clearly, real quickly here. If you get an annual membership to the DPMG group, it will provide you a VIP pass for the Friday events, which is a 1 to 4 meetup and a 6 to 9:30 meetup where you'll be able to mingle with speakers and panelists and some really incredible people in that room. You have to get that ticket. These tickets are non-refundable no matter what, Friday or Saturday. XRP Las Vegas conference on Saturday is a ticket you get right here with this ticket button. 8 hours. It is going to be a breakfast and a lunch served, and incredible people who support and are growing the XRP ecosystem, and it includes all of you too, because it doesn't happen without all of you as well. You can click this to get your room, but I tell you, I don't know if the special room rate is still available anymore, and these are some of the most incredible people you're going to see, and there'll be some more that you're not aware of too, so make sure you get your ticket before it is gone and sold out. Now, with that being said, Link 2 is going to be doing a fireside chat, and I'll tell you something. It's going to be remarkable, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to see Uphold sitting on stage with them and a couple other people that are incredible. And let me tell you something. Link 2 provides access to private equity with the companies that are actually building out the blockchain ecosystem. And that isn't all. If you want to get into artificial intelligence, the ChatGPT kind of technology, well, guess what? Cerebras has got artificial intelligence. You want to get into artificial intelligence? Samba Nova's got it, right? How about Chainalysis, which is monitoring the entire blockchain space, which is fully subscribed right now? But I'll tell you something. How about Link 2? The company itself providing all of this. I sat in a meeting yesterday very quickly here, and Link 2 has grown 483 times since its opening and launch. And let me tell you something. Currently, right now, they've crossed over $200 million in cumulative investments on the platform. I'm going to tell you something. They have close to doubled the company since last year, and we all know how tough last year was for the world. Now, I'll tell you something. Those are impressive numbers, and there's a lot more numbers that I could keep going on. But if you haven't checked out Link 2 itself on the platform, I think now's a good time to do so. Click the link from my sponsor underneath the video. Gary Gensler here. I tell you, he said, let him say it to you. It is just, I can't. Let's let him say it.
You've been criticized by some for regulating the crypto industry by enforcement policy rather than by proposing rules. Why have you to date been reluctant to propose new rules to govern crypto?
It's pretty straightforward. There already are rules. They're called the securities laws and the securities rules. There's nothing incompatible about crypto and the current securities laws. So I think that really the goal of this agency is to bring this field into compliance. And why do we have that goal? It's so investors get the time-tested protections of our securities laws. And so those companies out there, if they choose to try to avoid the law and they're still operating in the U.S., they're offering products, they're offering broker-dealers or exchange or clearing products or staking as a service or lending products here in the U.S., come into compliance, or yes, we're going to be a cop on the beat.
You know, this is all coming from a guy who explained and taught at MIT something very, very different. Ryan Selkis from Masari says every major crypto company in the U.S. should be ready to fund the upcoming campaign. It's going to be an all-out war the next 18 months. Founders DM him for details. I tell you what, or reach out to John Deaton, who's been doing this fight for a couple years, while we've listened to many people along the way laugh at us for being in the fight or cheer the fact that we were in a fight. Now everybody realizes that boat's a lot bigger. It's got a lot more seats in it than you thought. Doesn't it, Ryan? Jeremy Hogan here says, based off the tweet from Wired here, if you're trying to send a message that you want crypto in the United States, but you want it to be compliant, the way to send that message is to help companies to become compliant, but we don't see that happening. And they're exactly right. Jeremy Hogan chimes in here and says, what's become clear in 2023 is that it's not just a lack of clear rules from the SEC. The U.S. federal government has taken the position that the whole crypto industry is fraudulent and must be stopped. The SEC's come in and register is a lie. It's just a trap. Wow. Go Jeremy Hogan. And here's a crypto lawyer here saying Dubai is the crypto capital of the world. Listen to this.
Why would I call Dubai a crypto capital of the world? Again, I'm slightly biased, but there are multiple reasons. First of all, English is the speaking and working language of the entire UAE. Japan, unfortunately, is a little bit difficult for non-Japanese founders and for non-Japanese companies. The connectivity, we're right in the center of the world, literally. Here's India with their billion users. There's China with their multi-billion of users. Africa and Europe, we're right in the middle of it. We've got amazing infrastructure, be it internet, be it roads, be it places where you live. And I can't think of a better place to live and work. The VC funds are moving into Dubai at a speed I've never seen in my life. We're setting up VC funds, fund managers, at a quite sort of astonishing rate. And this is where entrepreneurs want to be, right? If you've got amazing infrastructure, you've got amazing opportunities, the whole ecosystem is there, the VCs are there, regulations are being passed because you want regulatory certainty. What you don't want is what is happening in the US, regulation by enforcement. This is what you don't want as a lawyer, and this is what you don't want as an entrepreneur. So we've got the regulations. Why wouldn't you want to be there?
Well, it drives home the point of exactly what's happening here is they are forcing innovation off the shores of the United States at the SEC. Congratulations, Gary Gensler. Yesterday, we talked about this, and it is very important to highlight it because you're about to hear from India and the G20 president, which is India. I'm telling you right now. India is planning to scale up its CBD users to 1 million and prioritizing finding a solution to challenge offline version of the digital rupee to foster financial inclusion. And we know there are deep ties with India and Ripple in many different ways, as you can see here. Now, it doesn't mean that Ripple is responsible for the CBDC, but it does beg the question, now doesn't it? Now, let's listen here and hear what India's finance minister says here, that the World Bank and the IMF spring meeting on crypto assets will take place in April this month. This meeting will mark a significant step towards global crypto regulations. Take a listen for yourself here.
Now, forthcoming events in the context of G20 and crypto, I'd like to mention it now. April 2023, when we'll meet during the spring meeting of the World Bank and the IMF, side events are proposed on crypto assets, even there in Washington. July 2023, FSB's paper on crypto asset regulation will be also put on the table so that when we meet in July, we'll be able to talk about it. So IMF's paper is already on board, FSP's paper is coming in July, and the synthesis paper which the governor referred to will be during our presidency in September this year. The synthesis paper also will be submitted, and which will lead towards the creation of a global policy approach on this matter. So step by step on crypto, there's enough work going on.
And there you have that from the G20 president, India finance minister. I tell you, it's interesting, but it gets even more interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the one and only Rosie Rios, 43rd Treasurer of the United States Treasury, printed more money than any other human being on the planet Earth. That's right. And she's here talking about USD Tether. Wait till you hear this. Now, again, a highlight. This is a former U.S. Treasurer talking about USD Tether not being back 1-to-1 to the U.S. dollar. You tell me what you end up figuring out.
So, but what do some of those guardrails look like? What have been some complications? I'd love to ask you about Ripple, but I won't do that to you. Tell us about Tether. So what do you think are the complications of starting something like Tether?
Well, all right, so Tether's a good one. I mean, obviously everyone knows that Tether was intended to be a stable coin matching USD dollar for dollar, which sounds great, right? That's the one thing about digital assets in general, is that the hardest part for them to be really accepted globally is that they're not government-backed, right? They're not government-backed. So we went off the gold standard. I guess it was technically 1971, although technically it was written out, I guess, 1976. But early 70s, the U.S. went off the gold standard, right? We only have, I also oversaw the nation's gold. So fun fact, we have about 268 million ounces of U.S. gold in our reserves, which, by the way, wouldn't even cover half of the currency in circulation out there, right? So when we went off the gold standard, it's basically what the market will bear. So Tether, trying to tie themselves to a 1-to-1, is an interesting concept, although my understanding, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't exactly kind of 1-to-1 in terms of US dollars that they had in their reserves, right? They had other assets in there. I think now they're buying up treasuries. So I think it's changed over time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they also are saying that it's not necessarily US dollars that they have in their reserves to compensate for what's out there. I think that's true.
It was exactly not 1-for-1 at pretty much every time in Tether's history.
So,
yeah.
Wow, that is quite compelling, ladies and gentlemen, coming from the former U.S. Treasurer, the 43rd Treasurer of the United States, speaking on USD Tether's private stablecoin, which is supposed to be 1-to-1 or a surplus of the U.S. dollar. Now let's hear her talk about this. Rosie Rios is going to talk about what we've talked about here for a few years now, which is FSOC, ladies and gentlemen, and the importance that FSOC be looking and discussing crypto at the FSOC level. Take a listen to this now.
If I were king for the day, I would think that a lot of these conversations that are happening, especially as it relates to digital assets, should be discussed at the FSOC level. Whether that's happening or not, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I do know, for example, you probably saw in February, President Biden issued the executive order directing all the regulators to submit their own white papers on what they think about digital assets. So he didn't name one area at all in terms of being in charge of this at all. In fact, I think it's actually the NSC and the NEC, the National Security Council and the National Economic Council, who are kind of jointly taking the lead on this. But he didn't name the SEC as the lead. He certainly didn't name the CFTC. They're all submitting their research. And I'm hoping that once it is if it is the NEC and the NSC who's leading these efforts, that as these working groups really formulate, hopefully, what could be good, hearty, constructive recommendations, those guardrails that I'm talking about, and then again, that would hopefully mean that maybe the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, will take the lead in thinking how that kind of makes its way through. I don't think it's going to happen in a vacuum. I honestly believe that they are going to rely on Congress to take the lead in forming legislation. It's already happening, right? You're seeing it, although is it happening in an informed way? Is Congress making these proposals with the information that they need from the executive branch to move forward. And I think it's, it takes so long to do legislation. So perhaps that is kind of a window of opportunity where some of these proposals, both from the executive level and from the legislative level, can come together. So I do think by the end of the year is the timing for when these white papers are supposed to be submitted, unless that's going to change. And then I do think that Congress, along with the president and his team, will work through 2023, kind of figuring out perhaps what those legislative proposals should look like.
There you have it. So 2023, a very crucial year in Rosie Rios' eyes. And I think all of us can say the same, that we see things shaping up here. Look, regardless of, Gary Gensler's, come in and see us, but it's regulation by enforcement approach. It is clear to me that there are a lot of things taking place in the back channels or behind the scenes that we don't get to see. And I believe before we get out of this year, we will see some motion, and more than likely from FSOC, as she mentioned, before we would ever see Congress act. I tend to subscribe and remind everybody of what John Deaton said. I don't think we get crypto regulation broadly before 2025. I think that's very accurate, and it's something that we should use as a maybe even a watermark to pay attention to in the future. But in the interim, we're going to have some kind of intervening. And the reason I say that is because we just highlighted how the U.S. Treasury considers things like DeFi and things of that nature as a really a national security risk. And crypto itself has been stated that by previous administrations. So really something to pay attention to here is FSOC and where this all ends up. We will watch it closely. Before we get out of here, I do want to show you this. It's the XRP Bollinger Band from Eggrag Crypto, who says the BB is changing formation and the wide open mouth Bollinger Band will close. This means either XRP will range or drop. However, we have three lines of defense, which would be at 49 cents, 45, and 42. You can see here what he's talking about in the images that he's showing, and he still believes that it's stay steady, XRP will melt faces. Now, that's not financial advice from him, me, or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.